Hey there, commercial construction coffee talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David Corson. I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction and Renovation Magazine. This is what it used to look like. Oh, I got the glare on there. Hey, I'm breaking out the archives here. January, February 2013. Dennis Heinrich, COO, Casual Mail Retail Group. Nice looking issue. Okay, I always like looking at my publisher's page where I was, where I'm coming in here. Oh, this one's pretty cool. I'm coaching my rec team here. I think these are 7 or 8-year-olds, select team for lacrosse. I think we got to the playoffs, but we didn't win in the end. But anyway, a motley looking crew. Now they're probably in college by now, and I probably had a little more hair back then. But anyway, always like looking at the magazine, what was going on, and anyway, thanks Dennis for gracing the cover if you're still around, and we appreciate you telling the casual mail story. So it's look, we're Tuesday here in the week. Hopefully everybody had a great weekend. It's kind of fall break here this week in Atlanta, and everybody's out and about trying to enjoy the Indian summer in the South. I'll tell you, it is beautiful out there today. Not a cloud in the sky, no humidity, and boy, I think it's time to go out on the lake again tonight, because eventually I'm gonna have to winterize my boat here, and I won't use it for, probably December, January, February, but want to get it winterized before November. But it could be a boat night tonight. I don't know, but we'll see. But anyway, listen, I hope everybody's having a great week. Last week I was on the road. Went to Detroit, had a great meeting with the RCA. We talk about skilled labor and learning about how to build foundations. Was at a beautiful, beautiful headquarters in downtown Detroit at Saxby or Saxby, I forget how to pronounce it. Anyway, they had a beautiful, beautiful office. And for those of you who haven't been to Detroit, I haven't been there in a while, but man, the city development planning team, kudos, because downtown Detroit looks awesome. It just does. And they made it a destination point, and very, very impressed. Flew to New York, had my event, my meet and greet, my little gig that we did at Penthouse 45 was awesome. Had a great speaker, Aaron Golub, who was the first legally blind NCAA D1 football player. He played for Tulane. He was a long snapper, went through his story, how he came over to Diversity of being blind and how to do all the stuff. And he got a pro tryout. Now he's a speaker. Everybody loved him. There wasn't a dry eye in that room. And then had the meet and greets. Everybody walked out with business. And then we ended up with a tribute band called Folsom 68. And they do Johnny Cash. And oh my God, Ring of Fire. I'm in the prison. I mean, the guy it looked like I was talking to Johnny Cash. So JC, you guys did awesome. And anybody wants to see the video, it'll be in the next issue with our wrap up section. I'm going to put the video together here this week. I just got the links from our photographer, and but just an awesome couple of days on the road, and got to meet the naked cowboy on my way to Grand Central to catch the train out to the LGA, because I'd never met him before, but I'd seen him plenty of times in the Big Apple. And it was starting to rain. I go, hey, I want to get your picture. And he did the flex for me and showed the naked cowboy in his butt, and then gave me a little picture with his autograph and said, see you later. Anyway, that was like the cherry on top of the ice cream that day on last Thursday, and then flew home and then tried to catch a few Z's and do it all over again this week. So with that said, today I have a very special lady down in the big state of Texas, down in southern Texas in Houston. Her name is Miss Donna Coneley, and she's the vice president of marketing for Triad Retail Construction and a member of the RCA. So Donna, say hello to our listeners out there in Commercial Construction Coffee Talk down in Houston.
Hello, everybody. Thanks, David. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And question, are the Astros in the playoffs? Did they make the playoffs or not?
They are in.
They are in.
By the skin of their teeth, they're in. And it's funny because we've had this battle going on with the Texas Rangers up in Dallas. And for a while now, we all thought that they were going to win our
They didn't make it?
No, they're going to go wild card. If I'm understanding it all correctly, I don't follow it as closely as everyone else. But yeah, it sounds to me like we won our division and they are in the wild card. So we'll see how it shakes out.
Well, listen, the Braves and Houston, they have that little rivalry going on, so maybe that will happen, and you and I will have to make a little bet, if that happens. But there's a lot of games to be played. So, but congrats to the Astros for making it, because I know it was dicey. There were so many teams that were in it, and the Braves, they clinched a couple of weeks ago, and they've just been sitting around. They're getting the bye, so I don't even know who's going to play, but I know that. One of my buds in Baltimore, the Orioles, they made it, and I knew the Braves were in, but I knew there were a bunch of teams in there. I knew the Astros were one of them. So way to go, Stros.
No, it's great. They pull it out at the end. It seems like every year they start off slow. We have a few issues mid season, and then bam, they start firing on all cylinders right at the end when it counts the most. So we'll see how it goes.
And you got the rookie QB, the guy from Ohio State, playing for
Yes.
the Texans. No one wants to play that team. They're like the underdog, but now they're talking about, hey, you don't want to mess with the Texans.
The last few games they have looked very strong, and boy, did we need it, because the Texans have been tough to love over so many years. I think it was 2000 when they started, and man, talk about breaking your heart as a fan over and over again. But they are looking really good. I mean, I hate to get my hopes up, but we'll see.
I think they had blue helmets. They were wearing the red helmets. They got new color. They're blue and red.
Yeah.
But they got the red helmets, and I think it's cool. And they got the quarterback from Ohio State, and he's a rookie, and they're all coming in and they're winning. So it's good.
They look good.
Yeah, absolutely. I caught the highlights, but they're all saying, "Oh, don't mess with the Texans." CJ Stroud, they're the real deal. Blah blah blah. So
I hope that's accurate. I'm very cautious about getting my hopes up with the Texans, but let's see how it shakes out.
It's so early. It's like you got to play one game at a time, but it goes basically, in quarters. You got September,
Yes.
October, November, and December. You got to play, got to win all those games when it counts. But
right.
It's good to see them, playing good. So
it is.
I'm a sports guy. I look at all that stuff, I mean,
yes.
But
I love sports as well. It's a great downtime. You don't have to think about anything. Just root for the underdog or your team, and enjoy yourself. That's nice. No politics, no work. Just have a good time.
Absolutely. And the reason why I actually had Donna on, because she's in construction, she's a female, she's playing in a male dominated gig, and boy, she's not. I know this lady. She's an all around. She gets it done. She can play with the best of them. So she's got a good story to tell. So the way that we're going to do this, Donna, is we do it in 3 parts.
Okay.
Tell your story, where you grew up, you got any brothers, sisters, dogs, cats, you were married, play any sports, what have you, where you went to school, how you ended up, where you are today. And then we'll talk about lessons learned from the last 3 years that we all went through on the roller coaster, and any cool projects that you might be working on. And then you'll leave one final thought or phrase with our listeners out there and your contact info. And then we'll close this out. So without further ado, Miss Conley, the floor is yours. Tell us your story.
Great. So I'm a small town girl. Dad was good to me. I'm very blessed. I always wanted horses growing up, and he had 2 girls. So I am the boy in the family, or am fishing, hunting, horses, anything outdoors. I love golf today. But Dad was kind enough to buy us property, move us from Pasadena, Texas, which is just a little southeast of Houston, over to Dickinson, which is closer to the Galveston area. And with that came some property, some horses. That was around the 4th grade. Came on up, got into volleyball, played a little sports there, but always was the horses, the fishing, frog gigging, if you know what that is,
Oh, yeah.
And, hunting whenever I could, anything to get my hands dirty, anything to get outdoors, and just be with, nature. And so I did that, of course, growing up. My sister, on the other hand, was more the girly type. She was president of student council, cheerleader, all the opposite of what I was. But she too was a very good athlete. In fact, better than me. She could hum a ball from center field to the catcher and get people out left and right. So always impressed by her there. But married now. You mentioned that I'm in construction, a man's world. Well, I've kind of always been in that world. in my early 20s, I worked at a chemical plant in Pasadena, Texas for about 7 years in the laboratory testing lube additives, raw materials, mid-level materials, and then out the door, and making sure that everything fit those specifications. So that too was male dominated. You had your operators out in the field, your technicians, maintenance guys. I think it was 1 to 30 female to men out there. So, from there, finally went to college, had 2 kids while I was at the chemical plant, which was great. We had wonderful insurance and it all worked out really well for me and my husband, who we just had our 30th wedding anniversary.
Oh,
So,
too. So
yeah,
congratulations. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
that's a wonderful thing. I've got him trained, so you don't have to worry about. He said, "Are you not going to trade me in on 2 25-year-olds?" Heck no! Why would I want to do that and start all over again?
Yeah. It's a different world out there right now than 30 years ago.
It is a completely different world. I mean, my daughter's 28; she's a nurse, and my son's at A&M, getting ready to graduate with a degree in construction project management. So I couldn't be prouder of those 2 kids.
Go
So things are
Aggies,
going
12th
well.
man. Mm-hmm.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah. And they're doing quite well in football too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, my son was just at Arlington Field watching the Arkansas and Aggie game,
Oh yeah,
and
this weekend. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I had a blast with that. And of course, you got the Alabama game in College Station next week. No, is it next weekend, the 7th?
Yeah,
I
it's
think
coming
I
up.
think it is. Yeah. So anyway, just that's my life. Things are going great. I have horses to this day. We've got a few cows. We've got small little 10 acres in Alvin, Texas, which is between Houston and Galveston. And my 2 favorite things in life. Well, of course, there's my husband. But when I come home in the evening, I've got my 2 Australian Shepherds that greet me at the door, and I love them to death.
And
I
you
love
got
my
to tell everybody what their names are because they're
dog.
they're related to the Cowboys,
How do
and
you remember that?
I'm a shark. I remember everything, especially when it comes to
Yeah.
dogs. I'm like, okay, what are the names? And I'll let you tell them their name.
Okay. All right. So you've got Doc Holliday, who my family surprised me with a few years ago for Christmas. So it was the holidays, and my son loves Tombstone, so it was Doc Holliday. And we found that he was so hyper and so crazy when we got home from work that we needed something to calm him down and keep him busy and playing all day. So I bought him a dog. I got him an Australian Shepherd. So there's Doc Holliday and there's Wyatt Earp.
There you go, man. In typical Texas fashion,
That's right.
you
That's
know.
right. They're the
So
best.
So we had stables. I grew up outside of Philadelphia in Pottstown, and we had stables. So I was curious, what kind of horses did you learn at? Were they quarter horses, Appaloosas,
Yeah.
buckskins,
Well,
Palomitas? What were
yeah,
they?
my first 2 were Appaloosas. One was a big strawberry roan gelding, and the other one was white, and I swear she had blue spots on her rear end. So there were, and it was back in the salt and pepper days.
Yeah.
So salt and pepper were their names. So yeah, those were my first 2 horses, and they were fantastic. And we had a ball on them. But yeah, so I'd had the Appaloosas, and now I have quarter horses. I've always had quarter horses, and did some barrel racing. I'm actually thinking about starting up again on the barrel racing, which I don't know if that's crazy. I don't know. It was 100 degrees all summer long here. I was not going to start barrel racing again in that
Yeah.
sweltering
No,
heat, but
I
now
get
I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
when I was younger, I wanted to play professional hockey. So I went into my hockey digest. I told my parents, I said, "Hey, this is where I want to go." And they go, "The hockey ranch? What's that?" I go, "Well, it's 4 hours of horseback and 4 hours of hockey. And you live out on the ranch." It was outside Toronto, and so I went up there just about every summer for a month. Lived on the ranch, cleaned out the stalls, ran horseback.
Wow.
I did English and Western, so posting and all that stuff, and but I had a buckskin, I had an Appaloosa. My favorite was my quarter horse, uh,
Yes.
Poe, and he got kicked in the leg. We had to put him down. And of
Yeah.
course, my grandfather, we do it the old-fashioned way. And he's like, "Do you want to do this, or do you want me to do it?" And so I learned at an early age,
Yeah.
because when a horse breaks their foot or their leg, it's pretty much can't save them.
Yeah, there's some things you just cannot manage.
Yeah, and
It's rough.
his name was Poe, and but yeah, the quarter horse is the best in my opinion. They're just a good size, and but no, we I grew up with them, so whenever I talk to horse people,
Yeah,
I always ask what type you went for, and so
yeah. Quarter horses are in my opinion, the best. And
I have this picture of my grandfather. He was a combat engineer in World War II underneath Patton. He rebuilt all the anyway. He has this picture on like Patton. He was in the cavalry, so he's a very good rider. And anyway, yeah, there's a picture of Patton, and he's always on the white horse. So my grandfather had this picture on the white horse, and he's got the ivory pistol, 6-shooter on his side, and his crop, and he looked like Patton, in it.
I love it.
He was a lieutenant colonel, but he built all the bridges after the Allies bombed during World War II and whatever. Now they're in steel recycling. On my mother's side, it was in construction so they've been in business since 1888, over 120 years. So my cousins, like when I grew up, when you got your license, all the grandsons had to go and work in the scrapyard. So that's kind of so now my cousins who are my age, they're running the company. They're fifth generation because
that's great.
So it's you and I kind of have that kind of same kind of background. I knew the horse thing was there, but I didn't know it was so prevalent.
I would love to see that picture of your grandfather. That sounds
it's
cool.
sitting around here someplace.
Yeah.
But one of those things. But he's on this white horse, and he's got the his hard hat on, and the army hat, and he's got the 6-shooter, the arm, with the ivory.
That is so cool. I love that.
Yeah. So, but great story. So, let's talk about, over the last 3 years, I've been doing my podcast since March of 2020. I mean, I thought I'd be doing these things out on the construction site. That was my thing. I just bought my microphone, and I was going to interview people, whether I was on the road or locally on the construction site. And then everything got shut down. I was like, okay, I'll just start doing these, virtually. And 140 or 60, whatever episodes later, here I am again. But maybe I'll start doing them on the road. Who knows? But like everybody, every March of 2020, in the beginning of January of 2020, cranes everywhere. I'm sure in Texas, everybody was booming, low unemployment.
Right.
I mean, everything was perfect. And then everything just stopped on a dime. And then no one really knew how long it was. And here we are 3.5 years later, and we're still kind of talking about it, but we're kind of out of the tunnel. A little dips here with the labor or the product shortages, but all in all, most people, some people had the best years of their business. If they could find more supers or PMs, they probably would have, had more business to do, but you don't want to bite off more than you can chew and not.
Right.
So talk about how your company, kind of weathered the storm and lessons learned that our listeners out there in commercial construction coffee talk might find of interest.
Sure. So what we found initially was, which is probably similar to a lot of people, general contractors, was that some of our storage work was being put on hold. The developers that were going into the multi-level self-storage, which was a good portion of our business at that time. And we were enjoying that because it was good work. We knew exactly what we needed to do. We could get in there, get it done, move on to the next, have multiple going at the same time all over the country. We had great supers and PMs that knew how to handle it, and it was flowing. It was beautiful. And then bam, it hit, and much of that was put on hold, or some even canceled. So, and we'd been talking about, we really need to diversify, go into other service lines and look at other options and other opportunities, which we were doing, but looking back, we wish we'd have been doing it sooner. So actually there was some good opportunities that came out during that time. And some of that was, think about the automotive, what happened to the auto industry, right? A lot of new cars were not available all of a sudden.
No chips.
Exactly. And then used cars became so much more valuable, and rental cars were being sold off because no one was renting cars. They weren't going anywhere. They were just sitting in these lots, right? So what did that spur on? Well, and I'm still seeing it today. Oil change facilities, service maintenance facilities, body shops, car washes. Oh my God, the car washes, So during that time, I'm calling on these types of clients and gaining new clients, which was, I'm grateful for it. And the Triad was very grateful for it.
Yeah, Jay was psyched, you know?
Totally. Totally psyched. And we're still enjoying that business. So that was a great move. Retail, that was not going anywhere at the time.
It depends what sector you were in and if you were
True.
essential or not, what state you were in, what the
Right.
regulations were. But you're right. Listen, I mean, but
For us, it was not working out, at least at that moment. We're
mhm.
seeing it now, and that's fantastic. We're seeing a lot of dental facilities, ground ups. They're great. A lot of different, other than self storage and retail, which is basically what we were before all that happened. But some of the struggles that we went through, I think, like a lot of others, labor. We couldn't find labor, and then once you had labor, if you had an illness breakout or anything like that, I mean, of course, everybody was very concerned about that. We had to put new policies into place to manage all of that, and to make the clients feel comfortable, which of course we did everything we could do. And some other things, these parts that come with the HVAC,
Mhm.
the steel prices that were so unstable, roofing taking 6 months, 8 months to come to the site. When we started storing these things, if we have a client that we knew we were going to need these items for these types of builds,
There you
well,
go.
we're just going to store some of this stuff, and electrical components, same thing. But for me, being in the business development and sales world, what was the biggest struggle that I saw was the manpower, the labor, the superintendents, the project managers. Even though things had slowed down, we were still struggling to keep those folks that were good, strong PMs, supers, and labor crews in place. So that was my experience through all of that. Thankfully, we're seeing things come around. Concrete even. You wouldn't be guaranteed concrete on a day that you needed it. Depending on what state you're in or what city you're in, you might be on a list and you'll get it when they have it or when you've got 5 other jobs ahead of you. And so the scheduling of the concrete pours
Yeah, I'm
was,
coming tomorrow. Be there, or you're
yeah,
gonna lose your late spot in line, and you're going in the back, and and
right.
yeah.
Yeah. And the pricing wasn't guaranteed either. So it was just the variables really made it difficult to ensure that you were going to have, appropriate margins to make things work.
So talking about skilled labor last week when I was at the RCA roundtable up in Detroit, they did this presentation. I think they had 5 presentations on how different contractors were from all over different parts of the country, how they were going about going into the schools and presenting it to kids and their foundations, and how they worked with the local community to basically get people interested. Because a lot of kids these days, they think that, oh, being a contractor or a plumber or electrician, HVAC, oh, it's not glamorous. I want to go to Harvard. I want to go to Florida State where they have this really cool pool and hanging
Mm-hmm.
out. And they come out with degrees that aren't worth the paper they're written on.
Right.
And my son, he went through FA mechanic school, so he went to labor and skilled labor, and now he's at Boeing and he's on the flight line and worked on $350 million planes every day. But what was interesting was the way that everybody went about it, and that planting the seed of, you got to get in there between 5th and 8th grade. And if they have career days, you need to go out. You got the firemen, you got the doctors, you got the police, but here you can, plant the seed for the contractor. And hopefully, let's say out of 30 kids that might be in that room, if you get 1 or 2 of them, male or female, we want them both. If
Right.
they would come in and think about becoming a trade person, learning a skill, and because we have to replace all the people that are going to retire, or down right now. So just in
Right.
the just in it, like aviation, I set up there's 600,000 maintenance techs that are going to retire, so they all have to be replaced. So if you're a business out there and you're in construction or you're a subcontractor, you really need to think about that, because this country's not going to get built or keep the engine going without people working with their hands. And AI is not going to replace that. Okay.
No, you're exactly
Not for a long, long time until I see robots, in my opinion. You know?
right.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
just the reality of it. But it was so interesting of how they went about it and got the, it was very, I hopefully they'll put the video up, and I know they were zooming it, so a lot of people saw it, but it was just a really one of the best conversations I had seen in a long time. And skilled labor is such an issue, and you lived it, because you just didn't know, if the product, or if you did another project like storage, they're not cookie cutter, but at least you know how they're going to be done.
Right.
Everything's, but you know how they're going to be done, depending on how many levels and what the land is and the site. But bottom line is, if you don't have labor to do it, or you don't have the product to do it, it's not going to get done. So
you're exactly right. I mean, I am so glad to see some local schools. I mean, we've got some large schools around here, 5A schools, that are they're investing in just what you're talking about. They built these whole schools where kids can go and take HVAC courses, electrical, plumbing, everything from veterinary technicians on to all these different types of skilled labor. And what they're explaining to them is, yes, you can go get a liberal arts degree, or you can go get that degree or this degree and come out and be in a stack this high on someone's desk and try to get a job that way, or and with significant debt, many of them. Or you can go into one of these skilled trades and come out making more money than most college graduates out of school. And the demand for you is
your job security is like unbelievable.
and you can work anywhere. I mean, of course, if you're an HVAC guy, you got better job opportunities in South Texas than you do
Right.
up in Michigan,
Right.
but you get what I'm saying, right? So it is so true. And the shortage, it is a concern. And it was refreshing to see these large schools invest that kind of money into these buildings and all this equipment, and they're getting donations from local plumbers, and they're explaining to them, you can start your own business. You don't have to always work for someone. And look, if you want to get a business degree on top of knowing that skill, do that too. That's great. You can run your own company someday and have crews of skilled laborers working for you and create all these jobs. It's a great program, and I love seeing it, because we used to have auto shop in schools, and all these
So
types.
did you go to home when you were going, since you were, the daddy boy in your family? Did you go to home ec class, or did you go to shop class? And when you were growing up,
I did both. So I went
you
to
did
home ec.
both.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't supposed to. So home ec was right by the auto mechanics, which goes right by the wood shop, right? Well, I took wood shop. And of course, my shop teacher was missing one of his fingers, but aren't they all?
Yeah.
And then I took homemaking. Was it homemaking?
Yeah. Home
Homemaking.
ec. I call it
Yeah,
home ec.
home ec.
Yeah.
Home ec. But I just did that because I love to eat. And I knew that they were baking and cooking in the class. So yeah, I took that. But I also took it because I kind of liked hanging out with the guys in the automotive shop. Didn't take auto mechanics, but home ec was right there. You could fools. But yeah, so it was a lot of fun. And I feel bad for the kids today. They don't, not all schools have that.
No,
And
listen, my
didn't
son.
they all have that before?
No, listen, my son's school, they didn't have, they had a shop class where they go, you take a couple classes in the morning, and then you would go over to the tech center, and they would do automotive or whatever in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And but he needed the grades, and I actually went in and sat down with the principal and the counselors. I said, look, if there's one kid in this high school that 3,000 kids that
Yeah.
need to go here, he wants to work with his hands. He's working at the garage right now, part-time. He's it. He's not in it. He's not in history. He's not in English. He just wants
Right.
to work with his hands. Oh, well, he doesn't have the grades. We're gonna have to wait list him and this and that. So I yanked him out. My senior year, he his senior year online, and he still had his buds that he could hang out with, but he worked, and then he got into the aviation school and the maintenance gig, but he learned woodworking, welding, sheet
Yeah,
metal, avionics, all that stuff.
that's
And
great.
so I lived it. But you know what the biggest thing that a lot of these guys said up at the RCA meeting last week was that a lot of kids think that they don't want to swing the sledgehammer. They don't want to learn from the bottom up. They just want to become the president, and they don't want to, if you want to run a business, you have to, like I'm a publisher, so I know how the press works when I was printing it. I know how to buy paper. I know how to
Right.
ink. I know what good content, so it's all these different things that you know. So if you want to run your own business, you really have to start at the bottom. And like my
Yes.
son works in the garage, I said, if Mr. Jeff tells you to go clean the toilets, guess what? It might not be changing the tire, but you got to do it as good as you can at 110%. And because having your toilets clean for your customers, that's part of running your garage. So
Right.
it doesn't matter what you do, but you have to start at the bottom and earn your way up, because if you do, then when you hire someone, they know that you've done everything. And
Yes.
that's the biggest hindrance that I heard through. And listen, Home Depot did a presentation, and Tri North, and the city did one. I mean, like I said, they were all really good. Denise from Singleton, I think out of Columbus, she did one. Anyway, it was awesome hearing how they all kind of, but that was the biggest thing, that the hindrance is that a lot of the kids today, they just don't have that can-do attitude. Maybe the
Right.
athletes do, but in general, they just think, oh, I'll just become the president and I'll just run the thing. I won't have to. And that's not the way it's done.
Yeah, that immediate gratification, that it's going to happen overnight and not have to work your way up. I mean, the best business owners, the most successful business owners, many times started at the bottom. So,
Well, but as a horse person, if you get bucked off the horse, what's the first thing that you do?
yeah, you get back on.
You get back on. You got to dust yourself off. You make sure you got your teeth or whatever.
Yeah,
But you got to get back on.
but you
And
better do it quick before you change your mind.
yeah, but you got to. But the biggest thing is that you're gonna get. Sometimes it's gonna hurt, but you
Yes.
got when you first got on a horse, you're probably terrified. Well, whatever. But you got to get on. You got to take action, and
Right.
you got to learn from the bottom. And then you learn how to clean you learn to clean their mane, to clean their hooves. Make sure that the right feed is there. You got to clean the stall. You got to
Hmm.
make sure that your saddles stay oiled and so forth. You got to make sure your hat is perfectly clean.
Maintenance.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I'm just putting in horse terms because we're horse people, but but that was the biggest interest, that they don't want to sling, they don't want to do the work to get there, and that's just the mentality thing of uh
Yeah.
but there are kids out there that will do it, but they're in
Oh,
the
yeah. Yeah,
they're in,
definitely. There are. And I think that things, it's almost as though things come back around, right? You feel like, okay, this is way it used to be, the good old days, all those types of things. I really truly feel like things are coming back around in a lot of ways. And people are realizing technology is great, all of that, but you have to get outdoors. You have to get some vitamin D. You have to, in order to be healthy, mentally, physically, all of that.
Mhm. Did your son have shop class when he was going through high school?
I don't think he did. He was big into Korean martial arts, so �𝐿 is what they called it. He was a little guy. He was always the smallest guy, and he had, it was almost as though he had anger issues because he was always angry. When he was about, I guess, I don't know, 7, 8 years old, we realized we need to get this kid into something he's going to stick with that he likes. So we got him to Korean martial arts. He had his black belt when he turned 14. It took him 7 years to get it. So it wasn't one of those schools where, okay, you show up, you get the next belt. No, you had to get certain d- things down. You had to be able to do a roundhouse kick. You had to be able to break a board and this and that. It wasn't just, yeah, show up and we'll give you the next belt. No, you had to make things happen. You had to work at it. And I think that had a lot to do with him developing outside of just being angry, wanting everything right now, immediate satisfaction, and not having to work for it. It made a huge difference in that kid. So I'm glad we did that.
Yeah.
Wasn't into
Well,
horses at the time, but he
yeah.
is now.
Listen, I'm black belt in Taekwondo. I took it with my son, and I 2 weeks before my black belt test, I blew my knee out, tore my ACL, and then I had to spend another 7-8 months in rehab. Then I got back on and got my belt. And I can tell you right now, I don't care if it's Korean or jiu-jitsu, taekwondo.
Yeah.
It ain't easy. You get if you become a black belt in anything, you're in an elite group. Not everybody gets it, and they don't
Yeah.
give it to you.
No.
No, nothing's entitled. And like if you don't pass your test in taekwondo, you got to wait 6 months to take it again.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
knew like after I blew my knee out, I was like, I am not. I've waited a year, to come back, and uh, I wasn't going to go for another 6 months. And I felt bad for a couple of the little kids. They're crying. They didn't make it. And I'm like, hey, that's okay. I had to wait. I blew my knee, and I had to wait another year even before I even had a chance. So
Right. Right.
good for
No,
him. Good for
I
him.
appreciate that. I mean, it is difficult, but man, does it, what an accomplishment, right? If something's hard and then you get there, the way you feel about it is like nothing can stop you, right? So it's well worth the work.
You know what the worst was as you got close, they would put your black belt up on the wall, so you had to look at it for about 2 months with my name and my name in Korean. And but the greatest thing about becoming a black belt, it's great, but I'm only first degree, so I want to get my second degree and third degree. So you never stop learning it. You've reached the summit, but you're still learning. So it never ends. And other things, you win and it's over. With martial arts, it's a never end. You're always learning, so you always have that opportunity to climb. But it builds characteristic,
Right.
leadership, winning, losing, taking on bigger people, smaller people, and I get it. If your son was one of the smaller guys, hey, it's one of those things. But it was probably one of the best things he probably ever did for himself.
Oh yeah, he has a ton of confidence from it, and the other things that you do that you never really stop learning: horses,
Yeah.
golf. Golf is definitely one. So yeah, I mean, those are the things that keep you going. You know.
So tell us one of your coolest projects that you've done over the last year or two that you're proud of.
Okay, sure. Well, I mean, we've got one that's probably about 80% complete right now in Las Vegas. It is a beautiful, beautiful project. It's a two-story self-storage, about 100,000 square feet. And it's the reason why this one's special is because to me, the background, the surroundings. I mean, you got the mountains, you got the desert. It's absolutely gorgeous. The terrain. So as a marketing person, of course, I'm thinking pictures.
Yeah.
These are going to make some great pictures with the mountains in the horizon in the background, and it's just coming along beautifully. So anytime something is just firing on all cylinders, knock on wood, haven't had any issues, looks like the client couldn't be more happy. That's what turns my crank when it comes to one of these projects. And we've had a few good ones that are also self-storage. I mean, there was one in let's see, it was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and because of the ground and the water table and
Yeah, the
all
water
that,
table.
yes, we had to use. I think I might be lying here. I'd have to go check with the PM, but I think it was around 200 piers under that building in order to support that concrete and to give it what it needed to be self-storage. You have to have per square foot, there's a lot more weight that has to be supported. So no, that one was really cool. And that again made some really nice pictures because the client wanted to do lights on this building so that you could change color with if it was Mardi Gras, they're going to light it up in purple.
Yeah.
If it's, shoot, LSU too.
LSU weekend, yeah.
Yeah.
Purple
So
and gold. Mm-hmm.
Christmas, orange. Yeah. I mean, red and green, so yeah, I mean, that was a really cool project too. And then we've done a few service centers that just the facade and the lobby. This is not your good your whatever these different service places that with the dirty floor and the little bathroom. No, this lobby had an indoor playground.
Oh, nice.
And just the most gorgeous finishes, stone on the inside where their logo was and their signage, and just the most beautiful exterior as well. with 5 bays this way and 4 bays on the other side, made a beautiful looking design. And then this center column that comes up with a great red metal roof. I mean, just beautiful. So I thought that those projects were really cool. And then, we have it's not yet started, but there's a coffee ground up. It's I won't mention the name. It's a mom and pop, but it's going to look fantastic. It too will have really cool finishes, and it's local. So I get excited over local works, and we're national, but I love anything in Texas. It's just to be able to work in your home state, and there's nothing better.
So when we do our Project Profiles Award in March of 2024, I know you're going to nominate the Mama Pop coffees.
Oh, you bet I will.
So if someone wanted to reach out to you, about just in general, talk horses, golf, construction,
Sure.
so forth, how would someone reach out to you?
Well, I mean, I'm happy to give out my cell phone. That's
Sure.
832-331-7267. And then of course I'm on LinkedIn. I get a lot done on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. So Donna Coneley, Triad Construction on LinkedIn, my cell phone. I look me up. We're online. We have a website, triadrc.com. So I would be happy to talk to anyone interested in talking construction, horses, golf, Australian shepherds.
I had an Australian Shepherd when I was in school, and I tried. His name was LB because I bought him for $25. He was low budget.
Oh,
Out of the pet store. No one was going to buy him. And I looked at him and I was like, okay, we'll take him, man. But he would get sick in the car. And I tried to break him. We tried to get, how you get,
yeah.
after repetition, he just couldn't break it. So I was in University of Denver. I got my Denver garb on today. Anyway, I drove him up to Vail and we took him to the vet, and the vet's like, oh no, one of the farmers around here or the ranchers is going to take that dog. He didn't even stay there a day. He was gone. But his name was LB because I bought him for $25. So his name was low budget. So, but he was a great Australian. Oh my God, the dog frisbees. Oh my God, man, you could catch anything. He was amazing. Yes. Put him in the car. Yeah. 2 seconds. I didn't even have to be moving. I'd be like, oh no, I hear that. Oh, he's rustling on. I didn't have to turn.
Oh no.
You know how it is.
Yes. Well, luckily none of mine get sick, but yeah, they definitely love to chase the frisbee, the cows, anything. They leave the horses alone because I've taught them to leave those horses alone, but they were the quickest dogs to housebreak. I will tell you that. And I've had a lot of different dogs.
So listen, if you got any questions, LinkedIn, you got her cell phone number, give Donna a call. She'd love to talk to you, and all that good stuff. If anybody wants to reach me, you can get me at David C at ccr-mag.com. You can find me on LinkedIn too at David Corson. Listen, I've known Donna, and we talked to her, I think, at our Orlando event, right when the storm was coming in, and at the end of August. So, but listen, if you want to be a guest, listen, you got to reach out to me, okay? And we have all sorts of guests tomorrow. I mean, guests on the show. So if you want to tell your story, reach out to me at my email, and we'll take a look and we'll get you on one of these episodes. So as we finish up, Donna, we're in Q4 now. We got 3 months left. We're going to close out 2023. We're going into 2024. If there was one positive thought or phrase that you'd want to leave with our listeners out there, what would it be?
Well, I would say if there's anything that you ever wanted to try, don't delay. Try it.
Yeah. Take action.
Yes.
Yeah. The day, listen, if you start something today, a year from now, you'll thank yourself, so, but if you don't do it, it's just mute. So I always say, take action, one day at a time. And when you're done with the project, you look back and darn, I wish I would have, started that sooner. I wish I would have done that. Don't play that game. Just do it. And just do it and do it again. And, so anyway, listen, pleasure having you on here. And, I look forward to, seeing you in person. Obviously, I'll probably see you at Center Build here. And then, next month or two, you're going out there.
Yes, you will. Thank you, David. It was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me.
No, absolutely. And a couple things as we finish up here. Hey, number one, if you're out there, we want you to hit the like button. Okay, we want everybody to find this episode and find out about Triad Retail Construction out of Houston. Okay, and hit that like button, leave a couple comments if you like. We want the algorithms to find us on the web. Number two, if you're in construction, you're out there, be safe. Okay, we want you to go home, be able to play with your dogs, your kids, etc., and then get up the next day and show up for the site. All right, and number three, it's still hot out there. Believe it or not, even though we're getting into the fall season, it's still hot. So drink lots of water here. I've got my electrolytes, not much left in here. Put some powder in there. Make sure you stay hydrated, because when you get dehydrated, you get headaches. That's when mistakes happen. We don't want that stuff to happen. So be safe, drink lots of water, stay hydrated, and you'll thank me. Okay. So with that said, Donna, pleasure. Say goodbye from down in Houston.
Bye, everybody.
And I am going to say goodbye from Sugar Hill, about 25 miles north of downtown Atlanta, right below the Buford Dam on Lake Lanier, which is calling me, I think, to go out on the boat tonight. So with that said, we will see you next time on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. Thank you, Donna. You're the best. All right.
Thank you.
And everybody have a great rest of the week, and we will see you next time. Ciao. See you later.